Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is Two Back or Not to Back. We're going to be diving through a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns, and if you're sitting there wondering, isn't this video a little late today? Well, first of all, yes, it is true that the Two Back or Not to Back goes up every single Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is not when this video went up. And that's a combination of two factors. One is I had a killer headache last night. Absolutely killer headache. I had like a thing in my eye. I was blinking the whole day. It's a problem when you're trying to film videos last minute and you just aren't able to. And then secondly, happens to be anyways that Expeditions, I had a review for Expeditions that was anyways need to go up today. So the two kind of worked hand in hand. If you missed it earlier today on the channel, there's a review for Expeditions from Stonemaier Games, the sequel to Scythe. Highly recommend taking a look at that. I personally love the game. I mean, so I guess you could skip the review. I love the game. I'm a huge fan, and I was not a huge fan of Scythe, so I liked Scythe. Scythe was okay. Why are we talking about this? This is Two Back or Not to Back. Let's go ahead and dive into the various crowdfunding campaigns, starting off first and foremost with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is where we take a look at a currently available game that you can buy, that you don't have to wait a year for. You don't have to wonder about, like, you know, the lack of any reviews in the game, but you can get it now at a reasonable price point, not paying too much money, and today's Cult of the Now is actually a command game that skipped crowdfunding entirely. This is Stranger Things, designed by Rob Daviau, and this is in the Upside Down, based on the Netflix series, obviously, and this is a command game that completely skipped Kickstarter, which is more common than you might think. You just don't hear quite as much about them. In fact, Metal Gear Solid did the exact same thing. They have a pre-order for that. I should probably be covering Metal Gear Solid in a Two Back Not to Back. Next week we'll cover Metal Gear Solid. We'll look at that one. It's a pre-order. I didn't prep for it this week. I'm sorry. Either way, Stranger Things, The Upside Down, available currently on Miniature Market, $39.99. That is a reasonable price point compared to the usual $90, $100 price point for command games, even at retail. Forget the $400 you pay for, you know, a crowdfunding game. And this is a game designed by Rob Daviau, who is not a small name at all. But either way, this is your opportunity to go ahead and get your hands on that. You don't have to wait a year. You can check for the reviews. There's actually no reviews on this page right here, but check Board Game Geek, check YouTube. There'll be a bunch of reviews available. That is our Cult of the Now. And with that, we're going to start diving into crowdfunding, starting off with Board Game Adjacent. Board Game Adjacent in particular, The Damned. The Damned from MWG War Games Atlantic. This is a series of miniatures over on Gamefound. Oh, and I apologize, the disclaimer as usual that I do work for Gamefound. I'm CMO of Gamefound. Take that into account as we go through the video. That in general, I've been doing this series for the past 3+ years. But that said, take that into account, and I've only took the Gamefound job in last August. But nonetheless, take that into account as we go through the variety of crowdfunding campaigns today. But with that, going back to The Damned over here, The Damned, MWG War Games Atlantic. 10 days left to go on this. $187,000 raised currently. 898 backers. This is a series of miniatures for whatever purposes or use you want them over here. I'm not going to heavily go into the campaign. In general, Board Game Adjacent, I don't do quite as much. We have our 10-box deal for $299, our 3-box deal for $99, which means effectively if you buy 10 boxes, you're basically getting like a box free, effectively, and paying $2 extra if we're being technical about the math there. But either way, as far as the boxes, and there's a bunch of other pledge options for various box combinations, but here are the variety of boxes you can get your hands on. The Damned Female Infantry, the Damned Hounds, the Damned Outriders. Let's go ahead and pick on one of these to look at. Let's look at the weapons team. The weapons team looks pretty cool. This is our weapons team. A bunch of miniatures over here. You can high quality miniatures. You can, I shouldn't say high quality. I assume high quality. I don't actually know. Don't have them in front of me. But over here are these miniatures for a whole miniatures line of various war game based miniatures, various ways to build and assemble them in a variety of different factors, with I believe some of them have like extra heads. I think like the miniature stuff had a variety of extra heads, so you just have those options there. It's been a long time since I assembled stuff like this. I remember a long time ago being completely entranced by, I was into Warhammer way back in the day, and my army of choice was the Empire. I Warhammer Fantasy, not 40k. My army of choice was the Empire, and I remember that I particularly wanted the there was a set that came out, and it was a new concept they had at the time. I think it was new. To my younger self, it was new at least. But it wasn't just like a set you could assemble. It was a set you can assemble and build your own team, meaning like each body went with each arm, and they had a variety of different arms and legs and heads, and so the way I assembled my team might be completely different than the way you assembled your team, and that was so fascinating to me. It's such a cool concept for a game that I'm pretty sure I played Warhammer like once. 99% of my time with Warhammer was building my army, coming up with my 1,000-point army, buying my army, assembling my army, painting my army, and I think I played Warhammer once. I prefer board games. I'm here for a reason. Anyways, that's going to be our board game adjacent as far as the only one we have. We have the Damned over on Gamefound, which means before we dive into our starting campaigns, a word from our partner of the day, which is Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile partner, thank you to Mint Mobile for partnering with me for this video. I've done a few of these with them already, and for those who've missed it or haven't seen it yet, the very short version is, first of all, it's worth noting, I generally do not take partnerships on unless I believe in the product, and for Mint, that's an easy one for me because I became a Mint user months before they reached out to me. Last December, I saw some ads, I want to check it out, save some money on my plans, and then just like I was paying like $60 a month, which isn't that much, but still more than I wanted to pay. I saw some ads for them, tried it out, and I've been using them for like 3 or 4 months straight before they happened to reach out and said, hey, we'd love to partner with you on some videos. And I was like, I already use your service, so I already believe in your service, which makes it an easy conversation. But switching over to Mint Mobile, you likely will save money. In my case, I went from spending like $60 a month to spending $15 a month. Everyone's rates and plans will differ, so do your own research. But right now, in particular, in addition to the already low rates, they are currently having an additional plan. And make sure to use my link down below. I'll have a link at the very top of the description down below. Click on that to get the deal so that they know I sent you, all of those things. But effectively, all of their plans currently are for $15. So if you were someone who would have wanted their higher plans, and just by the way, I'm personally on the 5 gigabytes a month plan, and I find that I rarely ever go above 4 personally, although that is because I use Wi-Fi in the home as much as possible, so your own needs will differ. But right now you can sign up for even the unlimited plan for $15 a month to check out whether it is or isn't a fit for you. And obviously you can adjust your plan as you go. So even if eventually when the deal goes away and all that, you can adjust to the lower rate and have a better understanding of the actual data you use. For myself, my phone bill went from $60 to like $15 a month roughly. It's like ranged from $50 to $60 a month down to $15 a month consistently when switching to Mint, and it took like 10 minutes to switch. And in general, I've seen no noticeable decrease or change in service. They have the nation's largest 4G LTE network, and so this is my partner of the day, Mint Mobile. I highly recommend, if you are in the market for a phone plan, I do recommend them as a service that should ideally save you money while giving you the coverage you need. And yeah, for me personally, it's a huge win, which is why you will see me talk about them again, because I believe in the service, I use the service, I save money on the service, and I want you to as well, while also getting benefited from it as well, because, you know, all that. But that's Mint Mobile, link down below, check that out. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into our campaigns of the day, starting off with Ice Limited, This Way to the Future from This Way Games. This is another Gamefound campaign, and a very interesting Gamefound campaign at that. 1,027 backers, 2 days left to go, 71,000 euro raised. The incentive, the motive for this campaign was, like many publishers in the board game space, they sat there and they got a little shipping notification, a shipping bill, a re-estimate, and their already high shipping costs were like, hey, by the way, like, we've doubled half of those. And so rather than reaching out to backers and saying, hey, we need more money, they decided to try to take a more innovative way to deal with this huge extra expenditure, and said, hey, we're going to run a new campaign where we're going to sell a bunch of things, we're going to give people the opportunity to give some like a pre-funding towards the additional campaigns. Like if you're backing their future project, which I can't remember what it's called, oh my gosh, let me go find this over here. If you would be backing Founders is their next game, then you can basically spend €15 now and get a $17 deducted from your next campaign, from that campaign. You're basically giving a slight prepayment towards the next campaign, but there's other options as well. There's going to be various, you know, art things, or digital art, a digital ice art book over here. You're going to have the companion set. We're going to have coasters, I think, or somewhere over here. There was some option for getting coasters, if I recall correctly. Here we go. Ice coasters over here. There were, not currently available, but there were options for various additional boxes of the collector's box or the core box. Those seem like, we do have a French core boxes still left over here, but the English ones are already gone. Again, some of these, they just had limited extra stock, and they took this opportunity to say, we're going to raise money by basically selling what we can. And instead of saying, hey, everyone, we need $20 extra, they're instead giving you the opportunity to try to contribute towards that shipping deficit, while making sure that making sure they're not basically putting a blackmail extra fee. Blackmail sounds aggressive, because the problem is the shipping crisis was a real thing and all these things happen, but making sure not to pass that extra fee purely onto the backers, rather asking for your assistance and help in a way that is ideally mutually beneficial. And so this is a campaign where you can get your hands on extras. You can't necessarily get your hands on the actual game itself, which is unfortunate, because I do recommend and like the game, but that's what this Gamefound campaign is. It's a support campaign where you can also get things along the way, and that's the Ice Limited campaign over on Gamefound. So check it out if you are a backer of Ice, or if you're interested in getting their next campaign, if you're interested in helping a publisher who is, I believe, handling this the most ideal way possible. Every publisher has to deal with this differently. Many publishers have sat there and sucked up the cost themselves and never said a word. Some people can afford to do that, some people can't. And one of those things that's always tricky about the shipping crisis is it's so easy to look at the ones who are asking for extra money and kind of ignore and forget those that aren't, or those that are doing something like this, where they're not really asking, they're kind of working with a mutual win-win. But either way, that's Ice Limited, This Way to the Future from This Way Games. Moving on, we have AEG Expansion Extravaganza. These are basically a bunch of ways. We got this accept all on our little pledge thing there. But AEG Expansion Extravaganza, $241,000 raised, 3,600 backers, 4 days to go on this one. This is basically giving you 4 games from AEG at discounted price points, with all the expansions they currently have at discounted price points, with new expansions. A new expansion for each of these 4 games, again, at discounted price points. We have Cubitos, we have Space Base, we have Tiny Towns, and we have War Chest, all of them bringing you a new expansion to the table, as well as all the additional content, and there's a variety of ways to build out your pledge over here. You can customly pick whatever you want throughout the campaign, or alternatively, you can also go to the two. There's a pick and choose over here, the $5 over here. It's not actually $5, it's you pay $5 and then you pick and choose what you want and build your own pledge. Or alternatively, if you want additional savings, getting all 4 new expansions will go get an additional savings. There's 2 different numbers. There's three different numbers. There's $126, which is the official retail price, which is what you won't actually. There's 4 numbers. There's $126, which is the cost of those 4 expansions at the official MSRP and retail price. Then there's going to be the second number, which doesn't really exist in this campaign, which is look at your own local game store and see what these games would cost you. It's a little trickier with the new expansions, but you can look at the old expansions. At least for other things, you can look at the old expansions and see what you personally would pay for some of these campaigns, look at some of these pricing things. So for example, there are expansions over here in this campaign that are $19.99 in this campaign, and some of those are $19.99 in Miniature Market, and some of them are $23.99 in Miniature Market, but you have to try to look and find out your own price point. The third number is the discounted price in this campaign, which again, for many of these are $29 for the, $29 or $30 for the base game, $19 or $15 for expansions. You can check out those on the campaign itself. And then the fourth number is there's 2 additional savings bundles. If you buy all 4 new expansions over here, you're getting an additional savings on all the 4 new expansions. And similarly, if you're buying absolutely everything, you get an additional savings on absolutely everything. For $200, you can get everything for these 4 games, all the existing content, all the new content, possibly not promos. So take my word, everything with a grain of salt as we go through this. But that's what we have as far as all these all the things going on in this campaign. And this campaign is basically a savings opportunity. There's no extras. There's no, you can't get this later. Everything in this campaign you can get your hands on later. It'll all be showing up retail. This all comes down to pricing. And if you watch the video is a good video, but it's clearly about pricing over here. Either this is a good deal for you or it isn't. My recommendation for this campaign is taking a look at what you want and just comparing it to your local options and seeing what you're actually saving, making sure to take into account savings as well, because their prices, from what I've seen, the prices they're giving are better or equal to what you would pay right now if you were buying it online in the US, and your own market and place and store will change. But for me, that comes down to about doing the math on what you need, what you want, what the shipping cost is. I think you do save the most if you want all the new expansions or if you want absolutely everything, because there are additional discounts in play that really make those the ideal choices. But that only helps if you actually want all that stuff, which for me, this campaign is a campaign I'm very excited about because I want the new Cubitos expansion. But also, I don't really need or want anything else. All of them are great games. I've played all of them. I recommend all the games, but the only one that's currently left in my collection is Cubitos. And so that's the only expansion I actually want, which makes it a campaign that I'll be skipping on, despite the fact that I'm interested in it, because getting a single expansion, I'll just wait on it. But otherwise, yeah, this comes down to pricing. Take a look, see what's out there, and this comes down to pricing for you. Which means we're going to move on to the next campaign, which is Roll on the Range. Roll on the Range, 410 backers, $2,500 raised so far. This is basically from 20th Century Games and Chad Elkins, designed by Danny Devine. I want to say Danny Devine over here, and this is going to be a $5 print and play game. I have review content on my channel, you can check that out, but effectively you're going to be rolling dice and then using those, you're going to be rolling dice and using cards, placing those dice on cards, and then trying to draw various animals onto your grid while you fence them in, while you go to the state fair, trying to find ways to combine the various things going on in the game to ultimately score as many points as possible before the time runs out, and you mark that last little market value on your pigs being worth the most, whatever it is. Again, quick and simple, fun game to play. Plays in around 20 minutes or so, 20-25 minutes, and it's a very easy game to get up and running. This is a print and play, so as far as should you back it, should you not, that's up to you. It's a print and play. Can't really sell this. It's a question of whether you actually play your print and plays, in which case for $5, this was a fun, enjoyable game experience. Moving on to Sanssouci, a 2 to 4 player game from Michael Kiesling, $34,000 raised, 837 backers. This is coming to you from Imperial Publishing, who they recently did, they're the ones who do Sleeve Kings. They've done the Sleeve Kings campaign over on Gamefound. They've done a variety of other smaller games. This is a bigger game from them. This is one, the Sanssouci actually came out in, oh my gosh, 2000 and... It came out a while ago. I don't remember exactly when. Was it 2007, maybe 2011? I don't remember exactly when. This is an old, maybe 2013? I don't remember exactly when this game came out, but it is an older game if I recall correctly. Had a reprinted edition as well. It's coming to you from Michael Kiesling, designer of Azul, and this is basically another tile laying game where you're going to be placing, there's a whole how to play over here, you can watch through that, but basically you're going to be gathering tiles, placing them onto your board, and trying to create chains of tiles. Basically you're trying to you have to gather certain tiles and be mindful of the fact that sometimes you'll already be filling a spot where you already have that tile, so you place the tile face down instead. There's also a few modules and expansions built into it, ways to move things around the game, game or additional things to get, but there are, I think, 2 modules built into this campaign as well if you want to get your hands on those. But it's another tile laying game, 2 to 4 players, possibly 1 to 4. Did I say 1 to 4? I may have said 1 to 4 already. 2 to 4 player game, so I guess there's not a solo mode going in it, and it's going to be available for $35, I believe. No, $40 for the game over here, although I think it's $35 if you're buying like 6. The price goes down to $35 if you're buying 6, which is great for a group buy, but otherwise, probably stick with the $40 option instead. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? For the most part, not likely. This is one where once you factor in shipping, and shipping is actually fairly cheap, it's worth calling that out. Shipping is only $6 to the continental US. They're subsidizing shipping heavily, so you're paying $46 for the game, which is certainly not a bad price once you factor in how much will this game cost at retail, but it still is paying a little bit more. Once you factor in how much it'll cost at retail, it's paying a little bit more, not a ton more, but so if your main goal is to get it faster or get it whatever, then yes, the getting on the crowdfunding campaign is the best way to go, and you'll be paying very little more for that, not a ton more. Alternatively, if you wait till retail, you'll be able to get your hands on it cheaper, but you're saving a few dollars, not a ton, and there's more the question mark of the when, the how, and all that stuff. So if you really want the game, I think it's probably worth getting on crowdfunding. You're not spending that much more. But if your main goal is what is cheapest or all that, then your primary reason to get this now is you're getting it earlier and guaranteeing and not having to deal with all those things in the game. That's going to be Sanssouci over here. As far as will it hold its value, likely not. In general, Sanssouci is a game that is rated decently, but not one of his more sought after games. I believe it's a 7.1 on Board Game Geek, if I recall correctly. But that's Sanssouci. Also, by the way, apologies if I'm saying the name horribly incorrectly. It's very possible. Azul is easier to say than this double S situation. But anyways, that is the game over here. Moving on to the next one, we have Third Crusade and Kartini from Darkness to Light. 2 games from AEG Game Design. This is another one of their doubling game campaigns. They often do campaigns of 2 or 3 games that seem to have nothing to do with each other, that they just bundle together. It works. I find it interesting and fun that they do it that way. But 234 backers, $17,000 raised, 13 days to go. We have Third Crusade, more of an area control game, and Kartini, a game about educated women. Here's a quick thing over here: battle, betrayal, and belief in the struggle for the Holy Land. The Third Crusade is raised into the Middle East, join the Crusaders in their quest to reconquer the Holy Land or rally its defense as an Ayyubid Sultan. Or we have Kartini from Darkness to Light, educated women are the pillars of a free nation, doing Indonesia's struggle for independence in the early 1900s, manage your school, graduate girls from different islands to become politicians, patrons, fighters, or teachers themselves. That's Kartini from Darkest to Light. We have 2 games over here, and as usual with AEG Game Design, their games both have a lot of cred as far as being heavy, meaty, thinking games that have a lot going on to them, but their games are also not cheap. We have Kartini from Darkest to Light is going to be €59 for the game, which is certainly not a cheap price point for a game over here. We have €74 for the Into the Classroom version, which is giving you an additional degree of additional curriculum things being thrown into your pledge as well. And then we also have Third Crusade for €79 for the game over there, or both the games for €129. So neither one cheap. Both them, though, are from AEG Game Design. Again, they're very interesting. They have smaller print ones. They're more of a publisher similar to Slaughter, where they have smaller print runs and less availability, but a lot of passionate fans around them as far as, you know, how good the games are and all that. I have not played either of these games, so I can't talk about them myself. Past just saying, AEG Game Design does have a good reputation for putting out games that are well loved by many. As far as will it hold its value, will it not? Likely not, unfortunately. With their games, like I said, are harder to get your hands on and are a little pricier, but generally they don't hold their value quite as well, just because they are pricier for what you're getting in the box. They tend to do okay, but they don't. Again, it comes down to like the lack of availability and trying to seek them out, so there are times you can get more or less for it, but in general you're likely not going to get your full amount back on these games if they are not games for you, and they are expensive games. Moving on, we have Royal Builders going from €79 or €129 all into a $3 game or maybe $5 game. 190 backers, 1,500, and that's not a fair comparison, to be very clear. It's not a fair comparison. It's not meant to be a dig. It's just it's about the what's the word for it? There's a word for it. The contrast. It's about the contrast, not about any dig. 190 backers, $1,500 raised, 14 days to go. This is from Poltergeist, and this is indeed a €3, not $3, I was close. A €3 campaign for Royal Builder. They've done a previous game in the past, and honestly, for whoever the publisher is over here, what's the publisher? Poltergeist, their last campaign as well. I remember calling out their last one. Let me go ahead and show it to you. I remember looking at the last one and thinking how good it looked last time. The one-page expedition just looked like a good print-and-play roll and write. It has that visual appeal that sometimes is not present in print-and-play roll and writes. Now, to be very clear, it is far more important that a game plays well than that it looks good, and I could argue the fact that it's not always clear the distinctions of the lines, those little tracing lines. Either way, I remember being impressed by how this one looks, and that's true of Royal Builder as well. Sometimes looks do sell a game. Hopefully there's enough gameplay there to back it up at the same time. But that's what we have over here as far as, let's go ahead and move that. And we have over here Royal Builders, but you're basically going to be rolling dice, assigning them to build out the buildings, to get your builders. Each of these spots have a little number in there where you can build your builders, and you can be using them to color in buildings and color in the actual buildings on the map as you build things out over here. Again, another print and play roll and write game that's going to give you a fast experience, and the same conversation as we had with Roll in the Range. If you are playing these games, by all means, go ahead and get it. €3, not a lot of money. If you're buying these games and building up a nice stockpile of 500 roll and writes that you don't actually play, well, congratulations, welcome to my Steam library. You're still probably spending less money on that. Moving on, we have Stroganov Turukhan over here for 1,390 backers, $59,000 raised, 15 days to go. This is the expansion and big box to Stroganov. And credit to Game Brew on this. They own this campaign well in terms of they have like I think 2 times during this campaign, they talk about this campaign. What's the point of this campaign? Why does it exist and all that? And they basically own the fact this campaign exists for 2 reasons. One is to give you the expansion. 2 is in their previous campaign, they met, and specifically in Stroganov, they had a lot of complaints from backers as far as their usual Game Brewers quality was not present in that campaign. A lot of people had issues with the boxes, with the tiles. There were just a lot of issues from a game that had a premium price point. They tried a different distributor, I believe, if I recall correctly, they tried a different publisher or distributor, producer, not publisher, whatever it is, the manufacturer, that's the word I'm looking for. And they just did not have a good experience, and the backers did not have a good experience, and there was a lot of complaints around Stroganov, not even around the game itself, but specifically around the component quality for a game that had a premium price point. And Game Brewer owned that. They acknowledged that. And it's very unfortunate. It's very sad, and it definitely is the kind of thing that can have an impact on a publisher, on you as the backer, on everyone involved that has an impact. That's just not a fun thing. I'm not here to cast blame or to make excuses. I'm just talking about the situation. And Game Brewer over here is owning that situation and saying, hey, that's true. And so to that end, we have over here, we have $30, basically $20. No, that's the subscribers only pledge. If you don't know, Game Brewer does have a subscribers option where if you are a subscriber, you basically get cheaper prices on all their crowdfunding campaigns throughout the year. It's generally worth it to you. If you are backing at least 2 Game Brewer campaigns a year, it's generally worth being a subscriber. And if you're backing more than 2, at that point you're straight up saving money. If you're backing only 1, just back the 1 and skip that. But for €30, we have the Stroganov Turukhan expansion, giving you more content for the Stroganov game. But at €35, they have the big box upgrade over here. So an additional €5 is going to upgrade your original game to the big box upgrade in a way that's hopefully going to give you that much more premium experience you're looking for, while maintaining as much as possible from the original game. So you basically have that option to get a bigger box and to have some of the things, the quality improved upon. They address that very clearly as far as what you're getting over here. And honestly, €5 extra just for a big box, that is like, even if it's just a big box alone, that's a big difference in price point. It's a small difference in price point for a big extra as far as what you're getting over there. And they acknowledge that throughout the campaign. A part of the point here is to give you that degree of quality improvement for, if you are someone who was let down by the last campaign. And then lastly, we have for €110, we have the Stroganov Big Box, which includes the Turukhan expansion as well. So you're getting the original game, you're getting all the new stuff, you're getting everything is entirely for €110 for the game. And that's basically the campaign over here. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical that it will. It's hard to say with Game Brewer. They've certainly been a publisher that's had a hard past few years as far as how well their games have received and how well their campaigns have done, and I'm curious to see how things will continue. But Stroganov in general has gotten decent reviews, overall good reviews, I'd say. Not necessarily amazing smash out of the park, but overall good reviews on the game. But if you look at the original campaign and how it holds its value, in general, Game Brewer has always been a little bit on the line. Their games are expensive and can often be very premium experiences, but they haven't always held their value as much in the secondhand market if you are getting those games and trying to see if you can get your money back. There's always the retail edition, the Kickstarter edition, and the retail editions have done totally fine. And their Kickstarter editions, the price point on them versus what you get back in it, there's usually a bit of a loss. And in Stroganov in particular, there was a much bigger loss because of those quality issues. So hopefully those quality issues won't be here as much, but even if they aren't, I still think in general their campaigns don't do as great a job holding their value, and I think it's likely to still be true of Stroganov. It's going to be very hard to not have that additional reputation there to have some degree of impact in how things are going to go. And overall, the campaign's doing fine, 1,390 backers, but it's certainly not doing amazing as far as how campaigns go, and that always factors into how much that demand is there in the the aftermarket as well. Moving on, we have Chroma Mix over on Gamefound. This is going to be from JZ Games, $1,847 raised, 99 backers, $200 goal over here. This is basically a small little, not really deck building, more of a hand management game as far as mixing and combining colors to ultimately try to win in this game. In the game, you're going to start off with a few cards. You can play cards down into, you can do a few different things to the cards, but you can mix cards to be able to get level 2 cards. You can also play cards for their effects, and then very often as you get new cards, you're going to be playing cards into your tableau that that will have an ongoing effect as you continue to play cards. And so very much it's about how you can chain your abilities together, how you can get the right cards into your tableau and take advantage of the combination of cards to have the fastest way to work your way towards that end game. Because you start with level 1 cards, you can always get more level 1 cards, but then level 2 and 3 cards a little bit more work to combine your colors and get what you need out of them, and ultimately the level 4 cards are the things that will potentially trigger how you win the game. I say potentially because they all have different varieties of what they do and how they operate, but they give you that end game winning possibility once you have a level 4 card. And it's all about building up the fastest moving engine in this game as you take turns combining cards, playing cards, or possibly just, scrapping cards at times. Depends on, well, you have to have the right cards to do that. Either way, that's Chroma Mix, an engine building hand management card game. As far as the pledge levels over here, pledge levels are very simple. $17 for a copy of the game, plain and simple. That's all it is. It's going to be a deck of around 60-ish cards or 70-ish cards. I don't know the exact count, whatever it is, but it's a deck of cards that's going to give you that hand management puzzle. It might be more than 60. So take what I said as far as, ignore what I said as far as the card count, because I just am not. 88 cards over here with 18 different vibrant motives printed on high quality cardstock. That is going to be Chroma Mix over on Gamefound. Moving on, we have the Nano 9 Games Wave 2 over here. 406 backers, $26,000 raised. This is the Wave 2 of the Nano 9 games. They had Wave 1 originally, which was Empire. They have it in tiny text. Empire, Railways, and City Builder, I think. Maybe something like that. I'm trying to do it by memory. I can't see what it says over here. I'm trying to remember what they were. Either way, but the new ones are going to be 12 patrons, Clinic 9 over here, or I don't even know how to say, I don't know what that word is. They have the new one over here, a new version of Clinic. We have Asteroid Miners. These are going to be the 3 versions of the games over here. And they're all condensed into the Nano 9 series, which is a series of games that have 9 cards, 9 dice, and 9 cubes. That's how you build out the games in this Nano 9 series. I believe the goal is to have 9 of these games, because of course, why wouldn't you? But right now, they already had series 1, 2, 3. Now they have 4, 5, 6, and then I assume they will have 7, 8, 9. And then if they do well enough, I wouldn't be surprised if they have 10, 11, 12, unless they come out with the Nano 12 series of games that have 12 cards, 12 tokens, and 12 dice, and that gives you the new series, the Nano 12. Doesn't sound as good as the Nano 9. You don't have that alliteration. We could do the Nano 19, but then how do you bundle it? 19 is a prime number, so you can't divide it into... No, we have to solve this. You can't do the Nano 9. Do any numbers start with M? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Because you could do the micro something, but that doesn't work. Small, 1, 2, small, the small 7, but again, 7's a prime number. You can't divide it up. This is a problem we have to solve. Because if we're doing 12, the tiny 12, boom, we got it, the tiny 12. We have the tiny 12 over here. It's going to be a series of 3 more campaigns, each divided up into 4 games, and you have the tiny 12, each using 12 components, 12 cards, 12 tokens, 12 dice, and 12 little tokens. That's what I solved the problem for you. There you go. There's the next campaign series after the next 3. But anyways, back to the Nano 9 over here, because the tiny 12 don't quite exist yet. But we have 4, 5, and 6, 12 patrols, Clinic 9, and Asteroid Miners. We're going to have these Nano games. Basically tells you what the game system is, the 9 cards, 9 cubes, 9 dice. But then as far as the game breakdown over here, we have 3 different games. We have they took Clinic and they made it into a micro Clinic, which is impressive. Well, it's okay. I'm broken up in the order here. 12 patrols. Which game are we going to focus on first? Let's focus on 12 patrols. In 12 patrols, you can be using your dice and your cubes to create these patrols in between cards over here. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can be setting up these 12 interpoints between the cards based on the card requirements and the game. A bit of a brain burnery solo puzzle in the game. Then we have over here, we have Clinic 9, which is basically taking Clinic and condensing a game that has 200 tiles, 180 wooden meeples, and 28 pages of rules, shrinking it down to a Nano 9 game system. I haven't played Clinic, so I don't know how well they did on that one. I haven't played Clinic 9 either. So, but either way, very impressive in terms of the ambition. No idea as far as the execution. And then lastly, we have Asteroid Miners over here, which is going to be a game which you're going to be collecting resources as you use your dice in this game. And those are going to be the 3 main game systems, the 3 game systems they have over here. Although they have pledge levels to get all the games. You can get a single game for $19 for any of those games. $19, again, fun fact, is a prime number. We realized that as we were talking through this discussion a minute ago. But then past that, $38 will get you 2 games. Inherently, $38 is double 19, which means $38 is not a prime number. And then we have $49, which is divisible by 7, so also not a prime number to get all 3 games. Then for $89, $89 feels like it's a prime number. No, yes. 89 is a prime number, isn't it? I think 89 is a prime number. It's not divisible by 2. It's not divisible by 3, because 3 would be 90. It's not divisible by 4, because it's the odd number. Not divisible by 5, or 6, or 7. No, 7, because 70, 19. No, I think 89 is a prime number. We have another prime number over here. If you want the Nano 9 Games Wave 1 and Nano 9 Games Wave 2 altogether, then for another prime number of $89, tell me if I'm wrong. I think 89 is a prime number. You can go ahead and get both those series over there, although once you factor in shipping, it may no longer be a prime number. But that's what we have as far as the Nano 9 games. As far as should you back shit you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical that it'll hold the value. The original series didn't quite as much. In general, smaller box games always have that harder time. As usual with these games, if your goal is to simply get them and try them, Kickstarter is usually the easiest way to get your hands on them. But if your goal is holding the value, I'm skeptical that these will hold their value just based on the first series of the games. But with that, moving on to the next campaign and the last campaign for today. Oh, it's a fast video today. Last campaign. We got one more campaign. It's a very, very short week. Totally should have covered that Metal Gear Solid from Come On. We'll do that next week. In fact, fun fact, by the way, next week will be another 2-back and back, but then the week after that, I'll be at Origins, which means the week after next week will not be 2-back and back, but rather I will have a late pledge video. It's been a while since I did my like 100 campaign late pledge video, and I'm not doing that again. Those were so much work. Instead, I think I'm going to do on a more regular basis. More regular might be like once every 2 or 3 months, but on a more regular basis, I'm going to do like a highlighting like 25 or so late pledges you can do. I already have them picked out. There's 25 late pledges we're going to talk about. That's in 2 weeks from now. But for next week, we will have a 2-back and back, including, hopefully, if I remember, Metal Gear Solid. Anyways, moving on to the last campaign, we have Witchcraft from Salt and Pepper Games over on Gamefound. Witchcraft is basically it's Resist Plus, I think, from looking at the game, from going over the campaign. And I've played Resist. I should have a review on that at some point. But over here, let's talk about Witchcraft first. 32,000 euro raise. 12,000 euro goal, 1,500 backers, and 22 days left to go. This is basically coming to you from Salt and Pepper Games, who've done Resist. I feel like they've done another game. Have they done another game, or is it just those two? Let's go over here. Oh, that's right. We have The Hunt. I forgot. I knew The Hunt. And it's going to have the same art and designers as Resist over here. And it's basically giving you the gameplay of Resist and then some. That's what I can see over here. It seems like it's Resist and then some. The part I'm a little bit uncertain on is I am uncertain from going over this page whether there's any reason to own Resist. I mean, maybe there's. I don't know. But from what I can see over here, it seems like this is basically Resist plus modules. So I don't know if there's a reason to own Resist past the interest in the theme, but let's focus less on that and focus more on this Witchcraft, a solitaire game where you lead a coven of witches in a fantasy world where magic is real and so are the monsters. So overall, worth checking all the testimonials, reviews for Resist. Again, this generally gotten lots of high praise. My opinion is overall positive. I'll have a review on it. It's overall positive with aspects, but we'll get into that during the review at some point. But either way, Witchcraft over here, why back now? We have a small publisher. The first version of the game will only be available in English and Spanish. Availability is a big part of the reason to back now, and that's going to be true of Resist as well, because that game was hard to get your hands on at first, and then eventually once it hit retail, once it hit distribution, and I believe they worked with 21st Century Games on the distribution. They likely will again, which means this almost certainly will be available in retail at some point, but it's just a question of do you want it now or are you willing to wait for it. I think that's a big part of the why back now aspect. And then of course the point of the publisher. But past that, you're basically going to have these various missions to tackle in the game. And then you have all these witches over here that have a left side and a right side. And the left side is the hidden side where you get to use their ability. The right side is going to reveal them, which makes you have a stronger power and a stronger strength to tackle the missions, which is a good thing, but then you lose the card. So the game is a constant trade-off of trying to manage and get by with your hidden sides, but you cannot accomplish all the missions with your hidden sides alone, so you will need to engage in the trade-off of dealing with your revealed side and coming out into your dastardly blaze of power and all the bad and horrible things that make you the actual villain they've come to fear. But I guess technically you're the good guys in this campaign. Aren't we the baddies? Are we the baddies? It seems like we're the baddies. We're witches, and look at her. She doesn't look like a good person. Elsie Sullivan over there. Elsie Sullivan, the teacher, looks fine. Elsie Sullivan, the revealed witch over there, looks like she's pretty terrifying. I think we're the bad guys in this game. But either way, you're going to be dealing with the missions over here, trying to gather new cards, be mindful of your hidden and revealed sides. Try not to burn through those too much as you go through and accomplish these missions in the game. And then additionally, there's going to be a few things they cover over here. What's new? What's different? This is based on the hidden revealed mechanism of Resist, but what's different about this game? So there's 3 things. They're going to have the juror system over here. They're going to have witch families, and they're going to have familiars, like 3 different aspects or modules. And the witch families is a big aspect of the drafting and building out your families over here. They have certain same names in the families, and if you've played Resist, there's 2 ways to play Resist. There's the basic, just take 12 random cards, and then there's the drafting cards as you go to build out your resistance fighters, which to me is the only way to play Resist. It's so much more control and feels like it's such a better experience when you actually build out your cards and have some degree of control over an agency as opposed to feeling at the mercy of what happened. And so those witch families will definitely give a nice little twist to the drafting aspect. All the thing I'm not clear on is, and until I play it, is it always like, okay, well, I have the Sullivan family, so I just take the Sullivan card? Or is there more of an actual trade-off of like, oh no, this card's good enough, I might want to take it despite not being part of the Sullivan family? I am interested in that decision as a trade-off. Otherwise it's kind of pushing you in a direction as opposed to making your choices more interesting. But then past that, we have familiars, and then we also have the juror system over here. So those are going to be the 3 extra modules that mix into Resist. And then lastly, the pledge level here is going to be 20 euro for the game. plus of course shipping. That's going to be Witchcraft over on Gamefound. Which brings us to the picks of the week. Picks of the week, in general, picks of the week, I have two things. I have two picks of the week. I have the game that I am the most personally interested in, and then the game that I think will most hold its value. For the game that I am most personally interested in this week, I debated Witchcraft because I did like Resist, and I'm curious about what extras added, but ultimately I am going to go with the AEG expansion, despite the fact that I'm not backing it, because the main thing I want is the Cubitos Foul Play expansion. It's going to add two new cards to, two new dice to Cubitos, as well as new cards for all the existing dice, and then new maps. It's just more content for Cubitos, a game I like. And so for me, my personal interest pick of the week is the Cubitos Foul Play expansion over on the Expansion Extravaganza. As far as what's most likely, which is the best back, what's going to hold the value the most over here. And again, this is not the cheapest campaign. It's just which game is most likely to hold its value and what's the best back to get now versus getting in retail or waiting or the second-hand market, all that. Honestly, I don't have any great picks for that this week. I think overall there's a lot of decent games over here, a lot of decent prices, but I don't think there's anything that's amazing as far as being the best back. Honestly, the AEG Expansion Extravaganza, if you are interested in everything, might be the pick of the week as far as if you want all of it or if you want all the expansions, you're definitely getting a better deal once you get all of those. But that's very situational, although the truth is my actual pick of the week for a value pick of the week is still situational because I'm going to go with Ice Limited this way to the future. I debated a bit the, what's called, what did I debate? There are a few that I debated. Maybe Witchcraft? No, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Either way, I went with Ice Limited over here. It's a half pick of the week. And it's a half pick of the week because, unfortunately, the main things that I think will likely to hold the value over here are things you can't currently get your hands on. These games over here, the games you're actually getting as far as the rewards, if you could get your hands on them, I think they're the most likely to hold the value. You can see they got snatched up pretty quickly. This is a game that is not cheap, but it's very unique in the feel of it, and I think it overall will do a decent job holding its value because of how unique the game system is, because of how good the game itself is very good. Not necessarily amazing, but a very good game combined with a very aesthetic feel to it that really pulls you into it. So I think overall these ones over here, these are like 11 and 45 copies over here, are the ones that are the most likely to hold the value, which again feels like a weird pick of the week because you can't even get them. So apologies for that. At the same time, I don't want to sit there and say something is the best value pick of the week when I don't think anything is particularly standout this week. And with that, let's go ahead and move on to the games coming up next week. We have two Gamefound campaigns next week. We have Firefly, the game over here, the 10th Anniversary Collector's Edition with 20,000 people following the campaign, launching in 23 hours. It's going to be launching tomorrow. It's a whole lot of Firefly. Apparently, they've already confirmed it's so big a box, it's more of a top of the calyx situation as opposed to being in your calyx. I've never played Firefly. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I don't know. To me, Zia is a game that always does well for me in the genre. I'm happy to play this at some point, but for right now, it's a game that I happen to have not gotten into yet, and the All-In is not going to be the first time I dive into it. And then we also have Stalker from Awakened Realms launching over on Gamefound. 40,000 people following this campaign. This is Stalker, the board game, giving you a campaign feel. Also, worth noting a correction. I put up a Stalker review yesterday. First impressions, a Stalker first impressions. Although again, reminder, it worked for Gamefound, all those things. But if over here, there's a section I messed up. I pinned a comment, but I still want to update and address it. But effectively, and I'll be talking about this next week too when I cover this campaign. But over here, I said the campaign has it's a 10 to 12 hour campaign, or I think I even said 8 to 12 hour campaign, which is not the case over here. Because while that's true that the campaigns are 10 to 12 hours, there are 3 campaigns in the core box alone, not accounting for stretch goals or what's additionally added on. And I made a point about the fact that I really like the game Stalker, but I thought the replayability, because the campaigns are replayable, but they're replayable with less degree. I would say that my personal incentive to dive back into it likely needs either 2 years or playing it with a different person before I would dive back into it. And so to me, I was like, I both like the game, but it was disappointing that it's only 10 to 12 hours of gameplay. There's not, because there's 30 to 36 hours of gameplay in the core box alone, because there's 3 separate campaigns. So worth noting that correction in case you missed the pin comment. Definitely worth covering it, because again, that was one of my cons. The lack of replay, the lack of amount of content in the game was definitely a con for me, and I was just wrong about that. So I pinned an update, and that's also a clarification here. But this will be launching on Gamefound next week, and with that, that is going to be your 2-back and not 2-back. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. Until next time, I hope you have a good one. Honestly, in addition to having a headache yesterday, it's been a very frustrating week because, like, I ordered this book on how to scam people, and it's been like 3 months and it still hasn't shown up.